That's the cheat code. So let me give you an example of what this looks like in action. When I started my gym, obviously things started slowly, but then I started running ads and things started improving. Now, that worked for a minute until my ads became too expensive. The algorithm changed overnight, which happens over and over again throughout, time. And all of a sudden my cost of getting a customer went from like $100 to like $500. And I'm using these as placeholders, but just say they went from I could afford it to not afford it. You can do the math here. If I charge a $99 a month membership, which I did at the time, and I'm spending $500 to get them, I'm literally paying $400 out of pocket for the privilege of having a customer that I hope will someday make me money later. Now, if that person stays for, call it 10 months, then I pay $500 to make $1,000. Kind of tough because I still have other costs that I have to make out of that $500, but like maybe tenable, but not realistically tenable because that means that I have to be negative for 5 months before I make my first dollar profit, which means I have to front money that I might not have, which is the situation that most business owners find themselves in. Option one is you either just burn through your savings and pray. Option two is you take on debt and then just give away, your future essentially. Or number three is that you take on cash from investors, you raise money, then you sell your equity, which you may or may not want to do, or you just eventually go broke and close the doors, right? This is kind of what I was facing at this moment. I was flying home for the holidays. This is before I stopped flying home for the holidays. And I was at the airport, and a guy that I knew in college came up to me. He was like, oh, how things going? I was like, oh, I started a business. He's like, oh, well, I have 2 locations. I was like, so what's the business? And he was like, oh, I have a supplement store. I was like, okay, how much are you making out of the stores? And he said, I'm making 80 grand and 130 grand a month between, in each one. And mind you, again, I didn't ask him for bank statements, but that's what he said. And I was like, holy 80 grand a month. And I was like, if he can do that just selling supplements, I was like, and he doesn't have members. I was like, I've got members at my gym. I'm sure I could get at least a quarter of that if I tried. I then, bought a bunch of supplements. I couldn't figure out how to get them to actually buy. But eventually I was able to figure out how to get them to buy. Once I did, that took my person walking in the door, and then I was able to get them to buy a few $100s in supplements in the first 48 hours. And then after that point, all of a sudden, I could afford to run ads again. That very small change of just saying, oh, I'm just going to sell them supplements after they come to my gym, that change fundamentally changed.
Look at your bank account. Now look at mine. Now look at your bank account. Now back to mine. Sadly, it doesn't look like mine. But it could if you joined Skool. Come with me. Where are you? You're at a party, but not just any party, your party, and you get to decide who's invited. You can come in, my dear. You cannot. Give me your money. And because it's your party, it can be free or it can be paid. It's up to you. And you're talking about whatever you want to talk about because it's your party. Learning and having fun. But don't believe me, look at these numbers. This is the real leaderboard from last month. And sure, I could talk about Bill, who's making $62,000 a month, helping people bookkeep better. Or Jamie, helping women invest, making $41,000 a month. But what about the average Skool community? Well, the average paid community makes $1,360 per month. How about them apples? What's that? The ticket to the thing that you've always wanted to go to. My headquarters here in Vegas. Become one of the top 10 communities and you can fly out. Look, over there. The ticket is now a torch. No, it's an engagement ring to the business of your dreams so that you can marry it forever. Because 1 out of 2 businesses on Skool create money online. Anything is possible on Skool. Click the link to start for free. I'm on a horse.